Voting feels simple today. You show up, check your name, cast your ballot, and you walk out. But not long ago, that same moment was almost impossible for millions of Black Americans. That's why today, we're uncovering 9 insane ways Black Americans were blocked from voting. Real rules and tactics so extreme, they barely sound believable. So let's begin. You walk into the courthouse. It's quiet, and people watch you as you step up to the registration desk. You're ready to give your name and sign your form. But the registrar doesn't ask for any of that. He reaches under the table and slides a Bible towards you. He points to a random verse and says, "Explain this." There are no instructions, no guidelines, just a verse you've never seen before. You try to answer, but it doesn't matter what you say. For Black Americans, this was the trap. There were no right answers, no fair chance to pass. If the registrar didn't like your explanation, you failed. And even if he did, he could still say you failed. This wasn't a real test. It wasn't about reading or understanding anything. It was about stopping you from voting, using a Bible verse as the excuse. And this was only the first barrier. The next rule didn't test what you knew, but whether you'd obey. Imagine this happening today. You want to vote, but you're told you can't. Unless your boss signs a letter saying you're well behaved. It sounds ridiculous, right? Your employer has nothing to do with your right to vote. But in many Southern towns during Jim Crow, this was exactly how Black Americans were blocked from the polls. Before you could even stand in line to register, you needed a good behavior letter, a signed note from a white employer or local official saying you were trustworthy enough to vote. Most refused to sign it, not because the person did anything wrong, but because allowing them to vote wasn't in their interest, or it angered the people in power. No letter meant no registration. No registration meant no vote. A basic right controlled by someone who never intended to give it. And for many, the process ended right there. But for those who managed to get past this barrier, the next test was designed to be completely unwinnable. If you managed to get past the Bible test and the good behavior letter, you might think the hardest part was over. But the system wasn't trying to make it hard. It was trying to make it impossible. That's where the Constitution test came in, used in places like Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana. The registrar handed you a section of the U.S. Constitution, sometimes a short line, sometimes a long technical paragraph full of legal terms. Then he said, "Tell me what this means." There were no clear instructions, no standard to measure your answer against, no honest way to pass. White voters often got simple sentences. Black voters were handed the toughest paragraphs in the book. And even if you explained it perfectly, the registrar could still mark you as failed. It wasn't a test of intelligence or patriotism or literacy. It was another locked door, one designed to shut as soon as you stepped near it. And just when you think these tests couldn't get more absurd, the next one wasn't based on law at all. It was based on pure humiliation. In some counties, the tests stopped making sense altogether. They weren't checking your skills. They were checking how easy it was to block you. Imagine going to register today and the registrar asks, "How many bubbles are in a bar of soap?" That was a real question used to deny Black Americans the right to vote. There was no right answer, no logic, no chance. It existed for one reason: to fail you immediately. And honestly, could you answer that question right now? Most people couldn't. That was the whole point. These weren't tests, they were barriers. And if you think this is extreme, we're not even halfway. The next rule is even more unfair. Think about how voting works today. You can own a house, run a business, build a career. None of it changes your right to vote. But in the Jim Crow South, success could cost you that right instantly. In counties across Mississippi and Alabama, black men who started to move up, buying land, opening a shop, or earning a steady income, were suddenly hit with new requirements. A surprise tax they had never heard of, a property fee due immediately, paperwork that didn't exist the week before. If they couldn't meet the new rule on the spot, their voter registration was removed. No warning, no hearing, no chance to fix it. It wasn't about money, it was about influence. If someone in the black community had a voice, a business, or respect, that was the person officials wanted to silence first. Imagine that happening today. Losing your right to vote, not because you broke the law, but because you succeeded. And while this tactic targeted individuals, the next barrier didn't require any paperwork at all, just a sheriff standing at the door. Today, when you walk into a polling station, you expect the process to be calm, organized, and protected. You don't expect anyone to stop you at the door. But for black Americans in the Jim Crow South, the people blocking the entrance didn't need a disguise. They wore uniforms. In many counties across the Deep South, sheriffs and deputies waited outside registration offices and polling places, not to keep order, but to keep black residents from coming inside. Sometimes they stood in the doorway. Sometimes they questioned people, demanding papers that didn't exist. And sometimes they simply told them to leave. No test, no form, no official denial, just intimidation delivered by the very people who were supposed to protect them. Think about how different that is from today. If an officer stood between you and your ballot box now, the entire country would call it voter suppression. Back then, it was the system. And even for those who made it past the intimidation, one mistake on a form could cost them everything next. Today, a mistake on a form is easy to fix. Back then, it could end your right to vote. Forms were filled with traps, tiny boxes, initials, abbreviations, write ST instead of street. Miss one letter, spell a name differently, and the registrar could reject everything. In some counties, people were even fined or arrested for simple mistakes. These weren't errors, they were traps. And all of it led to the next barrier, the cost of voting. This is the last fact, and it shows how deeply the system was built to exclude black Americans. Today, no one checks your family history to decide if you can vote. Your right is yours alone. But under Jim Crow, that wasn't true. Several southern states used the grandfather clause. You could only vote if your grandfather had voting rights before the Civil War. And before the Civil War, the only people who could legally vote were white men. So even if a black person passed every test, paid every fee, and followed every rule, they were still blocked by one question. Was your grandfather legally allowed to vote before the Civil War? For almost every black American, the answer was automatically no. Not because of anything they did, but because their ancestors were denied rights by law. Imagine being ready to vote today and hearing, "You can't. Your family wasn't allowed to." It had nothing to do with your choices or your knowledge. It was a rule designed to exclude you before you even reached the door. And that's why this is the final fact, because it makes one thing clear. These barriers weren't accidents. They were intentional. These were 9 insane ways black Americans were blocked from voting. They fought hard for a right we treat as normal today. So the real question is simple. Are you using your vote?